why don't we go ahead and get started while people are still coming in. My name is Elisa Owen. I'm the Executive Director of Kentucky Interfaith Power and Light. And we partner with several other folks, the Christian Action Group of St. Paul United Methodist Church, and also the Renewable Energy Alliance of Louisville, to put on these quarterly shows that help us figure out how we can implement the resolution that the Metro Council passed that Margaret is going to tell you about. All of our shows, all of our quarterly programs have to do with that. So Margaret, why don't you tell them more about the resolution and what we hope to do with it?
Elisa, why don't we go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. We were going to start with John, who is sitting there, and I totally skipped John, which is a terrible person to skip because his music is lovely and will give us a chance to wait for others to join us. So John is a local treasure. If you don't know him, he plays and sings and hopes and spreads his faithful nature around our community to the good of all of us. And you can find him on iTunes and Spotify and follow him on his Facebook page, which Paul is going to post as we listen to him play and sing and spread his goodness around.
So we'll start with our kind of our standard opening John Gage theme song.
Brody Streeter did the video.
My
Thank you, John, so much for sharing the light of the song, The Big Blue Ball, with us. We appreciate it very much. And now, Margaret, it's your turn to talk about the council resolution, which is our reason for being. So let's let people in on that. Thank you.
Yes, we're very grateful to John for the music, to Rhodey Streeter for the pictures that accompany, and it's such a wonderful video. I was listening to the words, universal love surrounds us all and sustains us all. And we're here to talk about sustainability. And that's what our resolution is about, sustaining life for all creatures, great and small, including those of us who happen to be human and seem to have a lot of influence on this whole environment. I hate to use that word because it seems so impartial, but our dear Earth. At any rate, the resolution that we're here to support was passed a year and a half ago, 2020 is when it was passed, February, by the Metro, 3 years. Okay, thank you, Sam. The Metro, I need to learn to count, by the way. But anyway, the Metro Council, and there are 3 stages of the resolution which the council passed. The first stage is for the city to have all renewable electricity by 2030. The second would be by 2035 to have all renewable energy, including that for transportation and for heating and cooling city buildings, metro buildings, by 2035. And finally, the goal that would include all of us, residential, businesses, everything, all of Metro Louisville, to have clean energy by 2040. That's an ambitious, but not too ambitious, very necessary goal. If you want to read the entire resolution, you can do so easily at renewableenergylouisville.org. You can find it there. There's more information about the 3 stages at 100%lou.org. You can check those out. The main way that we influence the Metro Council to the members of REAL organized to get the Metro Council to pass this resolution. I think our most influential tool was addressing members of the council at their regular twice-a-month meetings. We did that over and over and just ultimately got the resolution passed. We're still encouraging people, anyone, not just members of REAL, we're a loose organization, but everyone, to address the council. And recently, on the 27th of July, Paul Westland gave an address to the council. And then again, on August the 10th, Sam addressed the council. These are 3-minute little short talks. We want to encourage them to keep implementation of these goals as a high priority. So we're going to play some videos just to give you an example and hopefully inspire you to want to take part in doing this as well. So let's watch a couple of videos of Paul and then Sam.
Thank you. Paul Wesland.
Thank you. My name is Paul Westland. I'm here to talk about a different worthy topic. I'm the guy who's been sending you messages about Zoom events in support of the Clean Energy Resolution that you passed in 2020. We call these Zoom events real good news. That's because it would be real good news to implement your resolution, which calls for producing 100% of Louisville's energy from renewable sources by the year 2040. At our most recent event in April, one of the guests was the environmental reporter for Louisville Public Media, Ryan Van Velzer. Last month, he aired a deeply researched story on global warming that begins by saying, Kentucky's climate is getting warmer and wetter. The burning of fossil fuels is to blame. Among his insights is that climate change is not just about warmer temperatures, but about unexpected consequences of messing with a complicated global weather system. For example, warmer air holds more moisture, increasing risks of flooding. For agriculture, higher overnight temperatures can increase crop water use and reduce yields. Higher temperatures and carbon dioxide levels can speed the growth of ragweed and other allergenic plants to produce more pollen. We all know Louisvillians don't want a worse allergy season. Van Velzer's story reports, and I quote, "Without action, Kentuckians and the rest of our civilization faces growing risks of poverty, food insecurity, mass migration, and the rise of global armed conflict," unquote. But with your resolution, you are taking action. I encourage you to approve funding and take other steps to put renewable energy in place. Renewable energy, by the way, which is now cheaper than coal-generated power. Our most recent Real Good News event focused on barriers that the state of Kentucky is putting on renewable energy. I want to encourage you to use your political and organizational abilities to overcome those rules that are standing in the way of a cleaner future. Our next Real Good News event comes August 23rd. It will focus on yet another promising path toward green power, geothermal energy. Surveys show that global warming makes people feel sad, anxious, and overwhelmed, but also motivated. Thank you for a clean energy resolution that shows that in this climate crisis, there is a hopeful way forward. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
And now we have a video of Sam's address on August the 10th.
Sam Avery, Renewable Energy Alliance of Louisville. This is an emergency. The climate is now the weather. And look at what the weather is doing right now. And compare it to what it was doing 20 years ago and what it will be doing 20 years from now. Now, the people who predicted what we're experiencing now have been telling us that we have to be 100% carbon neutral worldwide by the year 2050. That means no gasoline, no coal, no natural gas. So how are we going to heat our houses? How are we going to drive to work? How are we going to turn on the lights? How are we going to refrigerate food? How are we going to grow food without tractor fuel? So sometime around now might be a good idea to begin the actual process of transferring to renewable energy. Now, LG&E is planning to spend over $1 billion on 2 new fossil fuel power plants. Is that a good idea now? Is that a good investment? We here in Louisville have to learn how to generate renewable energy on a utility scale. That's probably going to be solar. But the problem with utility scale solar is that it takes up thousands of acres of land. So there's going to be people who object to that. I don't like that. But this is an emergency. We have to find places to put large numbers of solar panels. We have no choice. Now, the mayor's office is already working on this. They're hiring a whole new staff of people to implement the resolution for 100% renewable energy that this body passed 3.5 years ago. So I'm asking you to support their efforts. I'm asking you to oppose LG&E's new fossil fuel power plants and any other form of new fossil fuel infrastructure. I'm asking you to continue to oppose the fossil fuel pipeline through Bernheim Forest. And I'm asking you to support utility scale solar with LG&E if possible, and without LG&E if necessary. This is an emergency. The climate is now the weather. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim Finley Jr.
And thank you, Sam and Paul, for your sharing with the Metro Council. We again encourage anyone who's interested to consider doing this, and you can get more information by contacting samuelavery@gmail.com about how this can be done. Get some direction that way. Sam referred to the Mayor's Office of Sustainability in his talk, and I just wanted to give you a little more current information on that. Sumeda Rao is the executive director. She's been working in sustainability in the city for a while, and she's great. Zachary Tyler is the energy manager now, and these have happened since our resolution was passed. And Zachary has already saved the city at least $1.5 million by increasing energy efficiency, and he's still hard at work doing that. We have a new hire on the Office of Sustainability, Nicole Kinchlow. Her title, I think, is Sustainability Specialist. So she's new on board, and Sumeda hopes to even expand further in the coming year. So we're grateful for that the city is doing that. We're working with them as much as we can in every way we can. Another bit of information to fill you in on, I think this was referred to maybe by Sam in his talk, that LG&E has proposed to build 2 new gas-fired power plants. 2 brand new, very expensive. I think the cost I read was $1.3 billion total cost to lock us into fossil fuel production for the foreseeable future, at least till 2050 and beyond. Interestingly, this is in conflict with LGE's stated goals of having clean, carbon-free energy by 2050. They'll still be having primarily fossil fuel. I think I read 92% fossil fuel energy by that date. They won't even meet their own goals, nor will our city be able to reach its goals of the resolution if those 2 gas-fired power plants are built. So the Public Service Commission had a hearing here in Louisville a week ago tonight. At least 5 members from 5 real people addressed the Public Service Commission regarding this problem and supporting renewable energy as opposed to more fossil fuel infrastructure. So things like that, any among us can participate in doing those things, and we encourage you to. Last of all, I'll mention, and this was mentioned in the talks also, Bernheim Forest is fighting against having a natural gas pipeline installed through their conservation easement land. This is supposed to be dedicated in perpetuity for conservation, and gas pipeline is in conflict with that. So many of us are working on that, and we encourage you to join in that effort as well. I think I've said enough and more than enough. We could go on forever, but let's get on with the program with talking about geothermals. And I think our next introduction here would be Ben. Am I correct?
Yes.
You want to say something about Ben, Sam?
Yeah, okay. Ben is our councilman from District 8. Many of us are in that district. And I've asked him to speak tonight to introduce himself. I know he's very much behind our efforts for renewable energy and many other things that we would support also. So Ben, without anything further, take it away and tell us what you're doing in Metro Council, your interest in that, and where you see things going in the next few years.
Sure, and thanks for having me. I am the council person for District 8. which formerly was Tom Owen's aldermanic district. And I very much am grateful to be a part of that legacy. I am a recovering entrepreneur, having done a couple of different businesses, a tech startup, a consulting business, and before that, I worked for large soulless corporations, and also the World Bank, where I did focused on microfinance and financial empowerment. And one of the things that gets me really excited about where I believe we are going from an energy future is the idea of micro generation and micro efficiencies being how we get to the kind of sustainable future that we want to have. I really, as an entrepreneur who is now in the government space, part of what I'm really excited about and part of what I will be working with this group and our allies on is how do we really make a financial case for the work that we want to be doing? Because I think it is really important to be making a case about the climate and our impact on it. But there is also just a pure financial model to be built here that I think can take some of the venom out of the political components of what we are trying to accomplish. When you say to my in-laws, for example, climate change, they immediately want to start fighting you. When you say energy independence and financial responsibility, they're like, I would like to be a part of those things. And I think that's really part of what I'm going to be trying to bring to Metro Council on many arenas. So that it'll be in the energy space, pushing for us because we can, as a government, make long-term investments in ourselves and our community from an energy side. But I'm also really interested in focus on how do we do that for other city services. You know, there's a whole really intense narrative around fund or defund of the police that I think is actually misses the important point, which is that everybody wants police to be focused on police things when we need them. And when there is somebody passed out in front of Carmichael's bookstore, what we want is for that person to get the behavioral and mental health services that they need. And we can do that by leveraging financial models around how do we bill Medicaid and how do we look to the fact that that person gets treated in the jail or the hospital in a much more expensive fashion in order for us to get the resources that we want. And I think that is exactly the same frame that we'll be bringing to the energy space. It makes sense for us over a long time horizon to be investing in renewable energies and efficiency. And so if we make that case, that's the case I want to be bringing to Metro Council with you all. So thank you for having me. And I'm glad to also, I'm super excited about learning some things about geothermal. I've been talking to my wife about this forever and she thinks I'm nuts. So she only let us get solar because I asked for it for my 40th birthday. And then I got an EV and now we feel like geniuses. So I'm hoping that you're going to make us feel like geniuses about geothermal. So thank you for having me, and I'm excited for what comes next.
Oh, thank you very much, Ben. And our next topic, we're going to move right into geothermal. And I should say that I have geothermal, and it is incredible. Now, not all the systems work as well as mine does, but for some reason or other, it cools, it heats, very little energy input, and the energy it does input is from solar, so it works very well with solar, Ben. So tell your wife it would be a good compliment there for your 44th birthday or whatever. And I should say also that my system is a small one, and it's what's called a horizontal system. It's a 300-foot trench down in the country here. There's plenty of room for that. You could also go vertical with it. And the whole principle here is that the ground is, you go 5 feet down and you're 50, 55 degrees. You can cool against that. You can heat against that. Instead of cooling against 95 degrees and trying to heat against 20 degrees, you've got a much more efficiency built in if you're heating and cooling against a base rate of about 55 degrees. So that's what's a good way to do residential geothermal. We're also going to hear about larger scale geothermal, namely the airport. But first, let's talk about the airport first. And we have with us tonight Brian Sinwell, who is Senior Vice President and Chief of Operations for the Louisville Airport Board, which includes Mohammed Ali Airport and also what's the small airport, slipped my name. So the airport board covers both airports, and he's not originally from Louisville, but he now lives in Prospect with his wife, and he has agreed to tell us what's going on with this large scale geothermal installation. Take it away, Brian.
Okay, well, thank you all, and thank you for the invitation this evening. I do have a presentation that we hope will pull up for everyone. I think there we go. So I'm just going to start here with a little introduction from the airport's perspective, maybe a little commercial for the airport. I know everybody knows the airport. This is STF, and this is where we reach. The airport has 37 nonstop destinations now. We got 3 new airlines, a lot of new routes, connections to Boston, San Francisco, Minneapolis, and we have some more on the way, we hope, in the near future. The bottom there says 2022 was the 3rd busiest year for STF, and this year is kind of mirroring that. So we're real happy with their service. Everybody knows our airport is home to UPS, a Worldport. We're 3rd busiest cargo airport in North America, 5th in the world. You can see some of the stats there regarding our daily flights. And also, just if anyone has driven by the airport, you see a large hangar being built. That's for UPS. That's the photo of it a couple of days ago. UPS is going to have a maintenance facility here for their 747s. That'll house 2 aircraft in that hangar and parking for 7 out front of their facility. So that's just the introduction to what everybody knows of STF. But I want to talk about something we embarked on several years back. Say 2016, 2017. We like to call it our STF Next program. It was an idea that we were going to move into making the airport what's called prettier on the outside. You can see some of the renderings here, what we see the before or existing and our after renderings of. That's the upper level roadway, of course. New facade, new canopies across the way there. We did change up some things in the parking garage already, but we had our sights set on some of these large improvements. That's an idea rendering for a new checkpoint facility attached to the airport, of course. That was something we were designing way back in 2017, 2018. And also, this is a view downstairs, bag claim area, which is actually right now it's under construction. The before and after, you'll see the after here real soon. But we are really into thinking about architecturally the customer experience and how we can make things more efficient in our terminal building. And that was really the drive in 2018 timeframe. And then, as everybody knows, the world kind of went black a little bit. It went real dark, and we had a little COVID moment, and everything kind of slowed down. It was a horrible time here at the airport, and everybody else was affected, everybody knows. But actually gave us a little bit of time to think about things and where we were going and what we were thinking about. And we started thinking about things just a little bit differently. We were looking at the aesthetics of the building systems, again, see the renderings of before or the existing conditions and the afters, but we really started to shift our mind into what my boss, Dan Mann, likes to say is the next most broken thing. And that was really what was critical for our terminal building, and that was the infrastructure. The current state of the infrastructure was old, and controlling the building temperatures was difficult, humidity was difficult, air exchange was difficult, parts were getting difficult to get. And so we shifted over from thinking about making the building look pretty and making it look, then we turned to make it look pretty from the inside. And that was a huge effort, and that was a huge thought, and that was took a mindset to, we really should fix what is really broken. And we took that time during COVID to really think about the design and really think about an assessment that was needed of the facility. 400,000 square foot facility. We did a full facility assessment like many companies do, organizations do, but we wanted to look at all different kinds of things and evaluate the infrastructure, the equipment, the operating costs, the opportunities, how we would replace all this equipment, what would go first, how would we phase it. But then during this time of COVID again, we had our time to think because we weren't going to invest quite quickly. So we started thinking about, well, is there another way to do this? We could go traditional system again, and everything in that photo there we just replace with new, and that would be fine. But we started talking with our consultant, CMTA, who has an office here in Prospect, about what are the chances for us to perhaps take some of the building off of the traditional system and run a little bit on geothermal. So we started looking at things and how we would do that. And it was really a decision point. We could replace one for one, or we could replace what we have with our traditional systems. But we started looking at geothermal, and we started thinking about, well, we know how geothermal works, and we just heard the description about geo and how it works, and I think everyone's aware of that. So we took that idea, and CMTA really went to design, and these are actual graphs of our facility, started thinking about, can this work? And maybe a portion of the building, maybe 20% of the building or 30% of the building. And we started looking about, what could be at the airport. And this graph kind of shows, the energy use intensity. Really, it's really how much energy we use per square foot per year in the building. And just to show the numbers, we're at 217 now, and down at the bottom there is the green number 120. That's where we think we can be if we would implement geothermal in a full-on capacity. So that was our goal. We started thinking about, well, let's look at the most important thing about the geo was the well field. We were going to go vertical well fields, and of course we need real estate to do that in. So we started looking at our campus here and thinking about where we could sink some wells and how much of a building we could heat and cool. And we started looking at different areas for the well field, thinking that maybe we could cool or heat just a portion of the building, maybe downstairs or maybe part of the connector, things like that. So when you look at our facility, and at the time we were going through a master plan, it's a planning event here that takes several years, and start thinking about, what the airport's going to look like in the future. We started kind of zeroing in on areas that we could or couldn't do a well field and how big that could be. I'm showing here some future things. FIS expansion is a future customs facility. To the left of your screen there, checkpoint, that's what we think would be a new checkpoint building. Where the red is a cooling tower. So we know we couldn't drill anything in that area. So we started thinking about, okay, let's look wider, and we did. Of course, you want to be close to your terminal facility. So we looked at certain areas. Hey, we have a lot of flat space here, which is great, but some of that flat space is valuable to us. To the north there, that parking lot maybe someday needs to be a parking deck. The other areas there, east and west of the terminal building, again, parking deck, circulation space, parking, maybe future structures, we don't know. So those were kind of areas that we wanted to stay away from, although close to the terminal and probably more efficient for piping, and not to mention on what we call land side, which is, outside the fence, easier to work, less security, things that we have to care about on the inside of the fence. It was easier to work on the outside of the fence. So I was trying to stay away from the airfield, but then, we kind of started running out of room. And then, we started looking on the airfield and thought, well, here's some green grass. This green grass is on the airfield, on the air side. So it's within the fence. That just, we have other requirements and security things that we have to obviously tend to when contractors are working in that space. But boy, that was a nice 9-12 acres of green that was really in a good spot for us, because looking at the airfield here, and you'll see that was what that well field would look like. And my idea in the future anyway was to expand that apron out for additional parking and for additional circulation. And so that was on our master plan already. And so we thought, well, that would be a pretty good combination of things. A well field that we could size to meet our needs. And in the end, let's create parking on top. And everybody knows this is what the airfield looks like during Derby. So a little extra parking would be welcomed. This is in fact this year's parking. So a little bit of new concrete around the terminal would be helpful. It's not going to help all those aircraft, but so look, we had an idea. We had our consultants working on it and saying, you know what, this really is possible. We could do the whole thing. We could heat and cool your whole terminal. That space that I showed over there is perfect for the well field. So they went to design, and then we came up with, you know, the benefits that everyone speaks about with the geothermal system. And for us, it was those things and more. Operating costs, no boilers, more efficient, 50-year life expectancy, water savings, less maintenance, all those things that everybody knows that's important to a facility. And we were checking a lot of boxes. And also, specifically in our project, we had some pretty good ideas that we were going to save 80% of our carbon footprint. It was going to be reduced, savings in annual operating costs. We're going to build in some extra capacity for future expansion. Our return on investment was pretty good. Like I said, we added an extra space for parking, for different events, and for future circulation around the terminal building. So everything was starting to fall into place. And to heat and cool our terminal as it stands right now, took us 648 wells that are drilled 500 feet deep in a grid in that area that's shown on the screen there. That is our well field. And so we took our design, our idea, and we put the project out to bid, and we came back to our airport board members and said, hey, we've got this great idea and we think we can make this work. The board at the time, I have to show their names here, that was really a key part of moving forward with this is their green light to go ahead with this. So those folks gave us the green light to go. So next part was how much it's going to cost and how we're going to fund it. I did apply for a grant through the FAA. The FAA has a program that's called the Voluntary Airport Low Emissions Program, VALE for short. I applied our idea to the FAA, and we cleared all the environmental requirements. That's shown on the left, and on the right is our actual grant agreement from the FAA. And the FAA funded $10.6 million of our $21.6 million project. So that really gave us the push to go forward. Would we have done it otherwise? Probably, maybe not at that time though. But in October 21, after our grant was received and we got everything in place, we started our program. So, break out the gold shovels and break ground, and off we went. And it's a big deal. It's a really big deal, and we're really proud of it. We're building it now, of course, on the inside of the structure, but I'm just going to show you a little bit of what it looked like, on the airfield and how this progressed. Obviously, this is the well site, and you can see on the right of the screen there, the old concrete, and we're merging into our new ramp. You can see some slurry in the hole there from our drillers that are starting to drill those 648 wells. And, just the progression of this project, it's going to be the biggest geothermal system at an airport in the country, maybe in the world, we don't know. But anyway, here's what it looks like when we're drilling those wells in a grid pattern. You can see some of the pipes coming out of the ground there. Again, 500 feet deep into the ground, and we started this network of pipe in that area. And just the progression of this massive undertaking to build. Again, on the right of the screen here, those wells are built, and you can start to see some of the sub-base going on top. There's about 2 feet there's 1 foot of sand, 2 feet of stone, 6 inches of asphalt. And in the end, you'll see 19 inches of concrete on top of this well field. The wells are a little bit further down than typical, so that we can build on top and have an aircraft apron that will be there for many, many years. So again, the progression of things. This is just showing the network of pipes that is going to go from the terminal building out to our well field, and you'll see those as the photos develop here. Again, just progress with drilling. You start to see concrete on the right side there. We have a large trench drain to catch stormwater. and through our best management practices that gets treated and gets sent downstream. You can see the wells being drilled from right to left, and then starting with the covering of the wells with the sand and the stone. Just more drills. Here's that cut across that apron there is those pipes, the network of pipes that's coming from the terminal building all the way to our well field. In that photo, you can see now we're into asphalt on top of the stone. We're capping this for a lifetime here. Kind of in the center of the screen there, in this area here, you can see a vault. There's 3 of them along the way here. Those are vaults that capture all those piping from those individual wells and bring those pipes into those vaults. And then from there, they go into those pipes that go in the terminal building. That's just kind of the distribution network of how all that well work gets into the terminal, from the wells into the vault box and then into the terminal building. That's just the progression of that work. Again, you see the photos of the vaults. They're big. They're 25 feet long. They're 14 inches thick concrete, obviously buried underground. We don't want to have to go in there, but we do have, leak detection and some other things. We have, redundancy built into the system. And right here at the bottom, you can see where those pipes kind of pop out. And that's what we'll be connecting into these manifold or vault boxes here for the complete system. Again, our new trench drain that will catch all the water that's running off our new pavement, and that'll go down into the airfield. And just the progression of what we like to watch, the asphalt going down. Here we start seeing the concrete, lane by lane, slip form paving, come back, fill in the progression of it all. And there's the finished product. Just before Derby this year, we finished it like that was our plan. So there's the concrete completed, and here another shot. And there's what it looks like today. We have it striped up for future use. Again, geothermals underneath, parking on top, and then this is really set up for wintertime de-icing process. When we get to wintertime season, we're going to have a special location here for de-icing. Maybe not this year, but in the future. But that's what that looks like today. And yes, this is Derby this year. We got done. The markings weren't done, but or complete at the time, but we did use our geothermal ramp for parking for Derby, which, helps out a little bit. Any little square foot that I can get my concrete for parking is welcome. So again, we're back to the future of the terminal. There's a lot going on right now. So all the work is done outside there in the well field. We're moving inside. We've been working inside for almost a year now. And now the fun comes in where we're changing out that equipment. The old stuff is leaving us. We're bringing in the new equipment. We're phasing it in. The old system has to operate. And yes, the new system is online already. So we're running geothermal right now in portions of our terminal while we work. The old system is still operating probably for another year and a half. And then we systematically, obviously, bring our new system online. There's a lot of work inside our buildings. All those mechanical rooms are getting gutted. New shiny equipment's put in, beautiful piping, nice lighting. Everything is working well so far. And while we're doing geo, like I mentioned before, downstairs, we're working on our bag claim area. We're making that more efficient. Those bag belts are 30 years old. We got new equipment in, we got new LED lighting in, we got new wayfinding coming in. So all these things are going on. With the geo, we're doing architectural and building updates as well. So there's a list there on the screen of what we're doing, what's underway, and where we'd like to go with the terminal building. And that's all really work underway right now. Also wanted to mention, we did set up over the last couple of years or so, a sustainability management program, which we have underway. We've been doing a lot of things for a number of years. We really don't advertise it, but now we're getting our program together. Now we're going to set goals, and now we're going to let people know what we're doing. And with the help of Bob Slattery, who's on our staff, he's really championed our efforts here. We got the sustainability management plan in my hands, and we're just going to start implementing that and start showing folks what we're doing and what we plan to do. One of the things we are working on right now is we have a design for a terminal power generation plant, medium voltage generator, microgrid, we'll call it. Obviously, generation when power goes out is important. So we're going to have that for the entire terminal. But not only that, we're going to have a PV system, solar system here that are charged some batteries in this facility that will be used for maybe some peak demand shaving, maybe some other peak load opportunities that we can shave some of the demand off of our grid and use our stored battery power to help maybe in the morning when we turn things on, maybe when things get really hot, we can start shedding some of the load onto a battery system. That project is designed, that project is actually out to bid right now. So we're looking for bids here in another month or so, and then we'll see where we go with funding. That's a $20 million effort just for backup power, battery storage, solar here at the airport. So we're really excited about that. One of the things we've been doing for a number of years on the bottom right of your screen there, it's so simple, but I'd like to talk about it. Every time we do a project here where we repair runways, taxiways, aprons, obviously the old concrete comes out. We've been piling it over here for years, and then contractors use that for a new subbase. So that's just a photo showing, the old concrete panels that come out that we can't use for landing taxiing aircraft. We don't throw those away. We pile them. Contractor comes back in, he crushes them to size, and we use it as a subbase all around the airfield. In fact, UPS used, I can't tell you how many tons of that material under their new building and their new ramp here on the airfield that I showed you earlier. Quickly, there's a lot going on. These are things that are really completed over the last year or two. Passenger facilities, things that we need to change, new equipment, more efficient equipment, new jet bridges, new escalators, new elevators. All these things are complete. When you're here, you'll see them. Parking improvements, parking assist, lighting. There's a lot of money spent there over the last 2-3 years, and we're proud of those things. Things on the airfield too. There's Geo. We did build that new taxiway ramp there for UPS. We're continuing to improve our airfield for efficiency for UPS. All these things are still going on as we renovate our terminal, probably to the tune of $400 million over the next 5 years. So, and also I have to give a little shout out for our maintenance crew here. We have invested about $10 million in new equipment over the last 3 or 4 years. The bottom left shows our multifunction snow removal equipment. That's a very efficient piece of equipment. Plow on the front, broom in the middle there, and a blower on the back of that machine. Really takes the place of maybe 2 or 3 pieces of equipment, making our efforts on the airfield more efficient, less fuel, and quicker time on the runway. So that's just a little tidbit there I want to throw in. But major investment on equipment to make things more efficient and save us some money and fuel as well. So that's really, there's a whole lot behind all this. Like I said, a little bit is online right now. I'd love to come back in a year or so and talk about how things are going on the inside, what our numbers are looking like, what we're really saving, and how we're doing with our total program. But super excited to share this with you all. If you have any questions beyond tonight, please email me or call me. I'd love to have you out. I can show you around. I want to acknowledge our design team there, our CMTA I mentioned, CNS, who helped us with the grant application for the money. Alliance is our architect, along with Stingle Hill, who's in town, and HNTB as well. That's really our team, our core team here that's helping us through this major program. So that's all I have. There's probably a lot, and I can talk for another hour, but I won't. Just appreciate the opportunity. And again, my email address is there. Email me. We can set time to come out. I'd love to sit and chat with you all at any time, and I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brian. That was fascinating. It really was. You compacted a lot in that small amount of time.
I apologize, but yes, thank you.
No, that was perfect. That was very well
Okay.
done. And I thank you so much for doing a huge amount of the goal that we're looking for, in
Yes.
particularly the 2040 goal. But this is a big step in the direction of 100% renewable energy, and we
Yes, sir.
thank you so much. And also the solar. I didn't know about your solar program, but that sounds fascinating.
Yeah,
And
it's going to be great. It's going to be great.
we want to see more of it. We're going to have questions after our next presentation. We're going to have questions and answers, hopefully some answers too. One thing I wanted to ask you though is, do you know if, was there a temperature increase as you went down to 500 feet? Do you know? Because I know
Yeah,
that.
yeah, obviously that's a great question. Yeah, we have all that data, and that's a very good point. You know, the land geology here plays a big part of our success. And you know, you can drill into anything, but yeah, I can show you the gradients, and there is a big delta going down to 500, and that's where we needed to be for that time for the heat exchange to work efficiently. But we kind of have, it's a little mucky, a little clay, a little wet area here, perfect for heat transfer and gain in our system. So that allowed us to do what we needed to do here. You know, different geology would maybe require 800 wells, but with what we had out here, we were able to perform the way we needed to do in our design. So yeah, that plays a big role in our success here so far.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And
Yes, sir.
I really appreciate it. And if there is time, I'm going to speak very briefly about something called deep geo, not now, but after Sarah Lynn's presentation. I don't know that we'll have time, but it's deeper than 500 feet. So there's a totally different thing going on there, a totally different technology. So our next presentation is Sarah Lynn Cunningham, and we all know Sarah Lynn. She's been been in the environmental community in this part of the world for as long as I have, at least, and we're very proud to have her part of the community. She's the director of the Louisville LCAN, which is the Louisville Climate
Action Network.
Right, which is a sister organization to the Renewable Energy Alliance of Louisville and to Interfaith Power and Light and to a number of other organizations, all heading in different directions towards the same thing. So take it away, Sarah Lynn.
Thank you, Sam. I just wanted to say Brian's job is the most expensive geothermal project I've ever seen. And if I understood you correctly, that you've got a 14-year payback, to me, that just screams what a good technology this is, because you really had to go to a lot of extra expense to pull it off in that particular situation.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
All right, gang, let me, so I was asked to talk about geothermal for residential, and I countered that I wanted to do air source heat pump as well as ground source heat pump. And I do have some slides on the really deep stuff. So because it's so technical, I decided to put together a slide deck. I don't like not looking at my audience, but hell, we're on Zoom. So I figured, all right, I'm going to give you all some diagrams. And it may seem like I'm not really addressing the topic, but I'll get there momentarily. All right. Does everybody see my title slide? Okay. So I'm really focused on heat pump HVAC, including geothermal. But the reason why is most of us are not in a position to put a drilling rig on our residential lot. I am acquainted with most of you folks, and I know that most of you live in a relatively, well, a streetcar suburb. I could say urban, but really most of us live in streetcar suburbs. Most of us have significantly less than a quarter of an acre, and you can't get a drilling rig into the backyard, and the neighbors might take exception to it in the front yard. So I want to broaden the topic to heat pump HVAC. So what is a heat pump? All of you have a refrigerator in your house, I'm pretty confident. What does a refrigerator do but extract heat from inside the refrigerator and dump it to the outside? So here's a diagram of how it works. It collects heat and in the process extracts, it dehydrates, it takes moisture out, but it with a condenser and a evaporator. It sends that heat to the coils that used to be on the back of the refrigerator, but now pretty much that heat is almost always pushed out underneath to the front, because now it's so customary for people to build cabinetry all around their refrigerators. It doesn't make sense to put all that heat and trap it in there. But this is how a refrigerator works. It is, I think it's important to point out, it's a one-way operation. If you have a bunch of the participants, you may be covering up the right side of your sheet, or screen, you might want to get rid of that. But heat pumps, air source heat pumps, this sort looks like a regular air conditioner. It takes up no more space than a regular air conditioner. We also have what we call mini splits that we're increasingly seeing that in a lot of ways have some real benefits, but they don't work in the typical residential house because you'd have to have too many of these units and they're expensive. So generally speaking, if you're in a residential situation where you've got a lot of small rooms, relatively small, you would look at something like this. How does it work? Well, it's essentially the same as the refrigerator, except it works two ways. It can extract heat from the inside of the house, just like the refrigerator, and dump it outdoors. That's what it does during the cooling season. Or it can extract heat from the outdoors and dump it on the inside, which is what it does during the heating season. So it's essentially the same as your refrigerator when you really get down to it, except that it can go both ways and it's a bigger scale. I'm gonna not spend nearly as much time on my presentation as I was offered, because I think Q&A is going to be a lot more effective. Now, that same concept does work with ground source heat pumps, and we typically or historically called that geothermal. Increasingly, we're calling this ground source heat pump to distinguish from the much deeper stuff that we can do with real geothermal that I'm going to get to at the end. But what we typically do, just like Ben described at the airport, though not nearly as deep and not nearly as many wells, very commonly a single family home around here needs 3 wells, 6 inches in diameter, 300 foot deep. That's kind of amazing. But anyway, and they're not typically spread apart as far apart necessarily as this diagram looks. It's a little simplistic, but within that well, we drop a 1-inch diameter plastic pipe. It's a loop of pipe that comes down, and the water inside chain becomes cool. And it's very inexpensive to air condition when you're starting with 55 degrees. But we can also use it with a heat pump to extract heat from the 55-degree water, which you don't have to be an engineer to see that that's much more efficient than trying to extract heat from, say, 35 or 40 degrees outdoors. It's just more efficient. So this is showing that when we use ground source heat pumping for cooling, we're extracting heat from the house, taking it down, cooling it off, and bringing back up the cool water. In the winter, we reverse it. Same thing. It's just that it's down in the ground. Now, we occasionally, in this community even, this is Norton Commons, you see these periodically in Norton Commons, these green spaces, and they are green spaces. You can go out there and play pitch and catch or whatever in there. But underneath these fields are wells for geothermal. And so each house has its own pipes, like what Ben showed you that came across the runway there, or the tarmac at least. They have their own pipes, but their wells are out in these common areas. We can also do horizontal ground source heat pump if you have a lot of space, but I don't think it's as efficient as going directly down, because temperature differential is your friend, and the further down you go, the less space you need, and I suspect much better efficiency. Though you don't have to pump as far, and that's another compensating thing, but this is sometimes an option. And then another method that I started to put in here, and I realized I forgot to actually put the photo in, but for example, one of the board members of Elcan has a big pond on her property. She's doing horizontal ground source heat pump, albeit her pipes are in the bottom of her big pond. So that's another method for how to do this. So they're horizontal, and you can kind of call it ground source, even though it isn't a pond. So the benefits of doing this are you very much reduce your carbon footprint and help to stabilize the planet. You save significant money. One of the cool things about the thermostat that's on our heat pump here at my house is it tells you what does it cost to operate the equipment each day and each month, and it'll do cumulative data. And it's kind of surprising how reasonable it is to do this. If we get into Q&A, I can get into some stuff about, do you need a backup furnace? But I'm looking to avoid that because it starts to get more complicated. You're more comfortable. I really notice in this house, which is 100 years old this year, we are definitely more comfortable. And of course, we didn't just do an air source heat pump. We did lots of other things to be efficient, but we are more comfortable in this house. The next really cool thing that's, to me, an order of magnitude of benefit to going with air source heat pump, ground source heat pump, whatever, is that it's electric, and therefore you can power it with solar panels. You don't have to use fossil fuels to use these technologies. And if all that weren't good enough, there are big tax credits that are coming. Ground source geothermal at the residential level is already good for 30%, just like solar panels. But the, is it the, I admit that sometimes I get it's not the bipartisan, the Inflation Reduction Act has allocated a huge chunk of change to each of the states to allocate to provide rebates to people who put in heat pumps, ground source or air source, doesn't matter. The state of Kentucky, I don't need to tell any of you, has never invested into energy efficiency or information on energy efficiency commensurate with the need. We, believe it or not, the Bashir administration left $3 million on the table to plan for climate responses because he doesn't want to go there when he's running for re-election. So this little bitty 4-person department in Frankfurt all of a sudden has huge administrative responsibilities for all this federal money that's flowing towards Kentucky. No surprise, they're falling way behind. So I can't be terribly specific at the moment because we are building this plane as we are flying it. But the federal government is providing about $135 million to the state of Kentucky to reimburse low to medium income families who install efficient new heat pump systems, etc. In Jefferson County, that would mean that a family who earned no more than $71,400 is potentially going to be eligible for as much as 100% rebate up to $8,000. So, it's an important caveat that once the money's gone, it's gone. It's not like the tax credit where anybody who qualifies gets it, but it's a huge pot of money. It's a huge incentive, and it is supposed to be allocated in a way that ensures that low and medium income people, taxpayers, get to participate and not just people with big bucks. Now, I don't encourage you to take tax advice from an engineer. That would be a bad idea. But We are working on hammering this stuff down to where we can give you enough to speak intelligently to your accountant, or at least be comfortable making these decisions yourself. On the 14th of September, we are expanding our Before You Buy workshop series to include heat pumps and tax credits. It's going to be at the Highland Shelby Park Branch Library, and we'll get into this stuff in much more detail. When we do Before You Buy, you get to bring a photograph of your house or the yellow Energy Guide sticker off your HVAC. But, you know, we will, usually there's no more than 12 households that show up for these things. It's still a much better use of my time to do it with only 12 people. But the cool part about it being only 12 people or 12 households is that I can actually give each of you some attention and some counsel as to what makes sense in your situation. So you're all invited to this. It's free. And now I'll jump right quick into the really deep geothermal stuff that Sam mentioned. We all know about this kind of stuff like at Yellowstone, but it is true that deep down in the earth, there's some really warm temperatures. And so it is a technology that is beginning to be built where we do utility scale geothermal, where we tap significantly deeper. In fact, we tap down far enough to where we are getting not 55 degrees, but 300 degrees Fahrenheit, where you can generate steam to turn a turbine to make clean power. When I submitted the Climate Action Network's comments on the LG&E proposal to build the 2 new gas-fired plants, I said that one of the things they needed to be challenged to do would be to explore this technology, because not only is it really clean, but it runs 24/7. So when the sun's not shining, you can still be making power in a clean way using this technology. Now, this is just another diagram that it's not any that much better really, but it is showing you how it works. The unfortunate thing is I could not get another slide to load up properly, and I got fed up with it. And suffice it to say that the best potential for this particular technology is essentially on the western half of the country. It's here in Kentucky. The estimate is that we would have to drill down 10 kilometers to reach the 300-degree temperature that we would need to do this technology. For those of you who aren't capable of doing the math in your head while you're listening to somebody talk about some weird stuff, that's about 33,000 feet you would have to drill down, which seems fantastic, right? As in fantasy, but we are already doing it for oil. And I submit that if we can drill down that many kilometers to get oil and natural gas, we sure as hell can be doing it for clean energy. So again, I think it's important to save plenty of time for discussion and Q&A. This is my contact information. And again, we will be producing more specific information as fast as it's available. But right now, it's just not all available. So, and I believe that by the time we have the class, we're going to have sufficient information. But I will say this. If the heat that we're enduring right now causes your air conditioner to crap out, my best advice would be to see if you can get it repaired rather than replacing it. Because if you wait until 2024, it's going to be a lot clearer what the tax benefits are and which pieces of equipment qualify, et cetera. If you can't help it, get the most efficient thing you can buy. Get Energy Star rated equipment, and you should be okay. But it's going to be safer to wait till 2024 when the final federal rules have been written. If the tax credit is a deal, you know, if you have to have the tax credit to do this, then try to wait till 2024, plan ahead. But if you're in a crisis, get Energy Star rated. And of course, you can always call us and we'll give you whatever advice we can. Thank you very much. I'm going to unshare.
Thank you, Sarah Lynn. That was wonderful.
You're
And
welcome.
something that applies to all of us. And I can attest to the fact that this is really, really efficient stuff. And it's for the current era. It's not something that's futuristic. Before we go on to quick question and answer, I just wanted to point out that deep geothermal is a little bit fantastic now. You know, they're talking about drilling down to 10, 12 miles, and it gets pretty hot down there. And we don't know what kind of casing we'll use or what kind of drilling, but eventually, after probably, you know, we're thinking about the 2050 time when we have to be carbon neutral, and that's going to require a lot of solar, probably too much solar, too much land devoted to solar. But if we get technologies like deep geo, if we start working on them, by that time, we can replace a lot of the perhaps temporary solar that we'll have to install between now and 2050 in order to get ourselves out of a climate emergency. So we have to think even longer than 20, 30 years from now, deep into the future for something like deep geo. I also want to mention that Josie Raymond is here with us. She's a state representative of ours, and we're glad to have her with us. And you want to say hello, Josie, or just?
Yeah, I raised my hand.
Okay.
Thank you all for the presentations. I mean, Sarah alluded to it. In Frankfurt, we're beyond unhelpful and have been in recent years, right? Moving very much in the other direction.
Majority is beyond.
The majority.
Not the minority.
The two bills that came to mind were this year, you know, a desperate attempt to save coal power plants by, you know, saying we can't shut them down for financial reasons, environmental reasons, for common sense reasons, any reasons whatsoever. And now there's, you know, follow up. And the bill from, I believe it was last year and the year before, trying to give a tax credit to cryptocurrency mining to just use electricity out the wazoo to try and prop up the coal industry. So that's what you're seeing in Frankfurt. But I also wanted to name that, you know, some of us who are serving in Frankfurt, Democrats in the super minority, care very deeply about these issues, but are not well versed and appreciate you all. And we're always happy to receive your wisdom and your talking points and your pre-written speeches. If there's messages that we can share with colleagues or with the general public.
Oh, great. Thank you very much. And thank you for attending. We really appreciate it.
Thank you guys.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah. And I'm going to turn it back over to Elisa and to monitor the question and answer. There's all of our speakers are here still. So if you have questions, let us know about it. Go ahead, Elisa.
Yes, well, I would just invite people to let me know if you have questions. It looks like Wallace has a question. Why don't you name the person that you want to talk to, or both, so that they will know that you want them to answer, okay? Wallace, do you want to go ahead and ask your question? You're muted.
Thank you. Yeah, I do have questions for both speakers, who both were very informative. Starting with Brian, you showed us picture of piping from the geothermal well sites to the terminal. I'm sure that you had insulation on those pipes. Could you describe how you insulated them to get the desired temperatures over to the terminal?
Yeah, that's a great question. And in fact, they are just concrete encased, polyethylene piping, concrete encased, no special insulation there. And that was a concern of ours. The length of travel, the 1,200 feet from our well field to the terminal was a big number, almost at the limit that we saw. But yeah, just concrete encased, heavy pipe to the terminal.
Oh, great. Second question. You showed a graph that you expect to reduce your energy usage from 217 to 120. Is that megawatt hours or multi cubic feet of gas? What's the units?
That's really energy use and intensity. It's really a KBTU per
Okay,
square foot per year.
okay. I can see why you didn't put the units on the graph.
Yeah, it's too much.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's typical. I always look at typical hospitals run 400 to 500 in that number, and we're around 217 now, and we want to get much lower. So that's just a number they use to kind of scale facilities in this work.
Okay. On to Sarah Lynn, I thought you did a very nice description of how heat pumps work, and relating them to refrigerators makes sense.
Thank you.
And you kind of alluded to the question of would one need some sort of backup furnace if you had a ground source heat pump? I'd be interested in your thoughts on that.
So I've had a programmable thermostat since about 40 years, actually. My brain thinks that if I'm warm, it must be time to wake up. In other words, I have to turn the thermostat down at night and sleep in cool air, or my brain's going, hey, get up, it's time to go to work. Which is a pain in the butt, but it's the way it is. But the good news is all of us have lungs that like sleeping in cool air. It's better for allergies and respiratory problems and things like that. So in order for a heat pump, an air source heat pump, and even a ground source as well, in order for it to recover, because I'm setting it down to 59 degrees, in order for it to recover up to say 68, to be comfortable once we get up in the morning, it takes sometimes 1 o'clock in the afternoon if it's super cold outside. Well, most people don't want to walk around that cold, so we put in a high efficiency backup gas furnace that we only end up using about 4 or 5 months out of the year, so that in the morning, the thermostat says, OMG, she wants to go from 59 to 68. It tells the gas furnace, kick on there and get this place warm. And as soon as it gets to say 65 or 66, it says, okay, we can finish with geothermal, and it ships back outside again. So if you were the sort of person who could sleep in reasonably warm air, or the temperature that you have when you're up, if you can sleep in that, you don't need to set back, and you could probably get away with avoiding the backup furnace. Now, all of this discussion is existing construction. If you're building a new house, you could insulate it sufficiently that you could get away with an air source heat pump and have much less problem with recovering. And yet you also probably couldn't drop the temperature down quickly in the winter because you've insulated it so well. So this is idiosyncratic, but it's real. And I have respiratory problems, so I want to set it back. My brain is wired for me to set it back. So we have a backup gas furnace. Now, I did the first year turn off the gas service for the months that we didn't use it to save the service fee. Because, the LG&E's gouging people for that stuff. And I just thought, I'll show them. We ended up having problems. And I'm not sure if it was that we had a bad thermostat, or if it's that we turned off the gas, and then when we turned it back on, it was just screwing up. I am probably going to try that little experiment in the coming summer. Not this, it's too late to do the experiment now. But if I can get it to work, I'll be letting y'all know, because we were saving, I think, $1.85 a day. Most of my utility bill right now with solar panels is these service fees for gas that I'm not even using. So.
Who else has a question? Well, I have one if no one else does. And Sarah Lynn, it's to you. I heard you talk about how the air source heat pumps and the ground source heat pumps work. But I was wondering how they compare in terms of capital investment, upfront cost, and then how they compare in terms of efficiency, because just on the surface of things, I would think that the ground source heat pump was more efficient. And does that mean that the ground source is also more expensive?
The ground source is significantly more efficient than the already very efficient air source heat pump. But it is also much more expensive. When we went to do the heat pump, which we installed not quite 2 years ago, it was going to double our cost to put in ground source, because we would have had to drill three wells, and it's just more expensive. But the operating cost would have been even lower. And this is where you get into the cold, harsh reality of relationships. I probably would have spent that, Jack, but my partner's like, are you out of your mind? No. So that was our compromise. I will also tell you, though, that even with the sticking with air source heat pump, we ramped up the efficiency another significant notch. And I did the math. Don't ask me to do it right now. But the payback on the extra money was only 7 years. So always, whatever you do, buy as efficient as you can afford within reason.
Right. Thank you. George, I think we have time for one more question if you have it.
Not a question, just a comment, just some insight on the suitability of heat pump use in cold climates. And I know there's a lot of pushback against heat pumps, saying, because you have to use supplemental source of heat. If my information is correct, the country with the greatest concentration of heat pumps happens to be Norway. So, I mean, that, says something about how well the suitability of heat pumps in cold climates.
Earlier today, Monique, my deputy who's on here this evening, asked me, well, because geothermal's the really deep stuff, right? And I said, well, yes, but it's also the ground source heat pump. And she asked, well, why is that so confusingly entitled? And I told her, I think it's because heat pumps used to be very inefficient, or more to the point, ineffective and uncomfortable, and people hated them. And I think they started calling ground source heat pumps geothermal because they had a marketing problem. But regardless, you're correct. It does work. I'll testify.
Well, I appreciate everybody's questions. Did you have another comment, George?
No, I'm sorry.
Good? Okay.
Pull my hand down.
Could I
Yes,
I have read that the geothermal and heat pumps are much quieter. Has that been your experience than conventional? No?
No, I don't think the equipment might be a tad more, a tad quieter, but what you hear in the house is the air coming through your ducts. So if you have noisy ducts, they're going to be noisy regardless of what equipment you have. But I have to say, I didn't really pay that close of attention. The noise does not bother me, but it's important to note that I have insulated glass right there where that piece of equipment is, and that just makes a big difference on noise too.
Okay.
Neighbors aren't complaining.
That's good.
well, thank you.
Lisa, I'm going to jump in here. There's a couple examples of geothermal that we have heard about but didn't have time to go into in this presentation. One we heard from in contacting U of L, that there's a geothermal project with the U of L Student Center, and I am putting in the chat room information about that. Also understand there's a geothermal project with the Galt House, and I'm putting in a link for more information on that.
I realize the source of Margaret's question. Ground source heat pumping is so quiet that So when I worked at the Metropolitan Sewer District, we started installing geothermal ground source heat pumps back in the late 90s. And as part of our research process, we went up to Akron, Ohio to see a credit union and some other project that I can't even remember right now. But the credit union that was using ground source heating and cooling said they had to install white noise generators because the system was so quiet that everybody could hear everything everybody said, and it wasn't working right. That was a financial institution. So they had to put up partitions between desks and put in white noise to cover up conversations. So I want to edit what I said to mean if it's ground source, then yes, it's extremely quiet. If it's air source, it's about the same as a regular air conditioner.
Well, thank you to our speakers, Sarah Lynn and Brian, and thank you to everybody for coming. I want you to know that we do record these events. So if you come across somebody who is interested in geothermal, either commercially speaking or residential, please direct them to the Kipple website or the Kipple YouTube channel, because that is where we post these conversations. So this can be a resource for people into the future, and you won't have to repeat yourself. Carolyn.
I'm still holding that class on the 14th for people who want to really seriously consider this stuff.
Also, indeed. Paul will post the link or give it to me to post. We also want you to watch for the next Real Good News event. We do something quarterly, and so probably sometime in the late fall, we'll come up with something else that we think would help people prepare for the implementation of this city resolution. And now I want to reintroduce you to John Gage, and this time he is going to play and sing for you rather than a recording, and we will let him have the last word in song, hopeful song. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This, as always, has been an amazing meeting. It inspires me and certainly informs all of us. So thank you for everything everybody does. This song is written by John Hall, recorded by Holly Near and others. A song called Power, and I recorded it. We have it. I think you all have a copy of it, Rick. But I love the song so much, and I think it's right on for what we're doing, that I'm doing it again. Power. Give me the warm power of the sun, the steady flow of a waterfall, the spirit of living things as they return to clay. Give me the restless power of the wind, the comforting glow of a wood fire, but take all your fossil fuel poison power away. Everybody needs some power, I'm told, to shield them from the darkness and the cold. Some may seek a way to gain control when it's bought and sold. I know that lives are at stake, yours and mine and our descendants in time. So much to gain, so much to lose. Every one of us has to choose. Give me the warm power of the sun, the steady flow of a waterfall, the spirit of living things as they return to clay. Give me the restless power of the wind, the comforting glow of the wood fire, but take all your fossil fuel poison power away. I know that lives are at stake. Yours and mine and our descendants in time. So much to gain, so much to lose. Every one of us has to choose. Give me the warm power of the sun, the steady flow, the waterfall, the spirit of living things as they return to clay. Give me the restless power of the wind, the comforting glow of the wood fire. Take all your coal-fired power plants away. Take all your poison fossil fuel power away. Thank you all. Thank you. Love you. Amazing. Good night, everybody.